Hi everybody, Miss C here. We're going to go over week 4's quiz today. So that was the 20 question quiz that you took last week. And I want to apologize. I guess my Wi-Fi was spotty when that storm hit at the beginning of this past week. My video didn't actually post for the explanations of last week's quiz. So I am super sorry. That will be up today along with this video. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We learned about climate last week. So we're moving on to our final unit, which is meteorology, and we'll split that up over 2 weeks. And then we're just going to do a bunch of review and a bunch of review projects. And so your note-taking load is going to get a little lower, by the way. Woo! For everybody. So anyways, what is a major source of air pollution? Question number 1. The answer is D, small farms raising large numbers of animals such as cows and pigs. It would not be the production of energy using solar and nuclear power. It would not be the building of dams for hydroelectric power, and it would not be planting more trees in forest areas. It would be D because they would be consuming a lot of vegetation. A, B, and C are actually really good for the environment, and we should be wanting to do those things. Number 2. Which is associated with an increase of chlorofluorocarbon CFCs in the environment? The answer is A, an increase in health risks associated with UV radiation, because CFCs are a greenhouse gas and they trap heat on Earth in the ozone, and that is what creates that hole in the ozone, and that is what contributes to global warming. So we've done a lot to mitigate CFC usage throughout the years, and that is even with hairspray regulations and stuff. If you've ever seen the movie or play Hairspray, they use all that hairspray and you're not allowed to use the same kind anymore. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent now, but the answer is A for number 2. Number 3, which is least likely to cause changes in global climate? The answer would be A, a tsunami, because that isn't caused by a climate situation, that's caused by the plate tectonics. El Nino, a volcanic eruption, and radiation from solar flares all have to do with heat. El Nino is severe tropical storms due to heat. Radiation from solar flares would also heat the earth. A volcanic eruption would heat the earth and then block out the sun because of the dust. So the answer would be A. Number 4. What will most likely influence global sea levels? The answer is A, an increase in global temperatures. That temperature is the main determinant of global sea levels. Think about glaciers melting, things like that. Okay, number 5. Urban City X has been referred to as an urban heat island because it tends to be warmer than the surrounding rural areas. The report below lists changes that have occurred in 1 year in Urban City X. Blah, 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 blah. You can read this for yourself. What is the main cause of Urban City X being an urban heat island? And the answer is D, the construction of parking areas and road systems, because solar panels, rooftop gardens, and trees and vegetation are, again, very good for the environment. Parking areas and road systems are black and they would absorb the heat. That's why pavement is always way hotter in the summer and way colder in the winter, is because it is something that is very absorbent. And so the answer would be D, that heat would get absorbed and then reflected back out. Number 6, what long-term impact could the destruction of large areas of forests have on Earth? The answer is B, increased atmospheric carbon dioxide levels. Remember, CO2 is what plants take in to produce oxygen and give it back out. So that's how photosynthesis works. So if we don't have as many plants, then not as much CO2 is getting transformed into oxygen, and that is bad for the environment. Number 7, which could increase the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So basically, what could make the climate hotter and what would make it worse for the planet? Planting trees is good. Reducing the use of gasoline is good. Creating wind farms is good. The only thing that's bad is burning coal to produce electricity. So your answer for number 7 is C. Sorry, I'm not trying to fly through these. I never know how slow or fast to go, but please feel free to pause whenever you need to throughout this. Okay, Joan picked up a brochure on North Carolina and learned facts listed below. It may experience either hot, humid summer conditions or more moderate summer conditions. The annual rainfall across the state ranges from 37 to 90 inches. Which aspect of North Carolina was Joan focusing on from the brochure? It was not the weather, because that is day to day. It was not the biomes or the ecosystems, because it didn't talk about food chains or deciduous forest. It was focusing on the climate. So that is what happens over a long period of time, weather over a long period of time. That is different from weather, which is just day to day. Like the weather here is rainy today, it's going to rain here Monday and Tuesday, and then it'll be sunny again Wednesday. So that is something that changes frequently. Number 9, which activity most affects the atmosphere? The answer is C, using oil as fuel for trucks. Remember, as you guys are starting to learn how to drive, and you start to pay for gas, you'll realize that bigger cars, like trucks and SUVs, take up a lot more gas than little sedans or hybrids or things like that. Drilling for oil, transporting oil, and spraying oil on dirt roads is all bad for the environment, but it doesn't really affect the atmosphere. Trucks expunging that fuel is what is bad for the atmosphere. All of those things are bad for the environment, though. So that was kind of like a trick question. Which would have the greatest global effect on atmospheric quality? The answer is C, reducing the gases emitted during electricity generation. That is why we spend so much time, energy, money, and resources in trying to mitigate the way that we use our non-renewable resources and migrate to renewable sources, because that is the number one effect on atmospheric quality, is how we produce electricity. And right now it's by burning coal and fuel, and that is horrible for the environment. Number 11, a student writes the following statement in a journal. It was 84 degrees Fahrenheit at 3 p.m. on Tuesday in the schoolyard. This best describes what? The answer is A, local weather. This does not describe climate, regional weather, or regional climate. It describes local weather at the schoolyard on Tuesday at 3 p.m. It is very specific to a certain place. Number 12 has a graph, so feel free to pull that up. A student wants to determine whether or not the graph below can be used to support the theory of global warming. So the graph goes from 1971 to 2000, the 30-year average temperature, and that temperature rises from January to June and July is where it about peaks, and then it goes down from August. The student examines the information, concludes the data is incomplete because the x-coordinate gives average monthly temperatures. So you're not comparing what years or what months it went up and down. You're just comparing all averages for the last 30 years. And that's not really a good sample. Number 13, on December 12th, a snowstorm in the city produced 20 centimeters of snowfall. When can this event be used to describe the climate of the region? This can only describe climate if the snowfall was consistent with weather in December over time. So if this was a one-time thing, then that's not climate, that's weather, because it happened one time, it happened on a day-to-day basis. But if it is used to experiencing snowstorms in all of December, then this is the climate. The climate of this place over a long period of time is that it's snowy in December. So please make sure you know the difference between weather and climate. Which of these events is an example of a change in climate? The answer is D, the average amount of annual precipitation decreases. C is overnight. B is a 1-week period. A is just one afternoon. D is the only thing that spans over time. When compared to current average conditions, number 15. When compared to current average conditions, which term would best describe conditions in Earth's lower atmosphere if greenhouse gases were absent? And we didn't have as many greenhouse gases, it would be cooler. Almost done. 4 more. 5 more. Visible light reaches Earth's surface while infrared light is trapped as heat. Which characteristic of Earth's atmosphere causes this to happen? Again, everyone should know this. C, the greenhouse gas. If you don't know it, that's number 16's question, is the definition of how greenhouse effects work. So, number 17, after a period of steady increase, the rate of coal consumption was 50% higher during 2009 than it was in the year 2000. If this trend continues, which impact will coal consumption most likely have on the environment after the year 2010? So obviously this is an older question, but The answer is still valid. And it is D, increased level of greenhouse gas emissions. Remember, if we're burning that coal, we're releasing more greenhouse gas, we're trapping more heat. The greenhouse effect is a cycle. So just keep that in mind. That is a theme that we have kept coming back to this whole semester, and it's really important. Number 18, the average temperature of the surface of Earth has increased approximately 1 degree Celsius in the past century. Which reason best explains this increase in temperature? The answer is C, higher levels of CO2 in the atmosphere. Number 19, global warming affects sea levels. Which of these is a likely consequence of if the trend of global warming continues in coming decades? The answer is A, melting glaciers will cause flooding of coastal towns and cities. So we are actually close to this point. Remember when we talked about what happens if the polar bears disappear? We are like 100 years from this happening. If not severely, but in slower and slower increments if we don't do something now. So the answer to 19 is A. And then number 20, an increase in carbon dioxide in Earth's atmosphere is most likely to have what effect? Increased average air temperature. Again, it's making the air hotter, and that is the cycle of greenhouse gases and global warming. So hopefully this cleared up anything that you had questions about. As always, please reach out via email, text, Google phone number is where you could get my number from to text. Instagram, YouTube, email, whatever you need to do, please contact me if you have any questions. And if not, I love y'all and I hope to hear from you soon, and good job on this week's quiz.